How will another Trump administration affect SpaceX and Starlink? It's a good question. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much once again joining me for tea time. Today we have a little bit of misty morning, and that is it. The zing. So good. I hope you're joining me with your cup of tea, maybe a cup of coffee, hanging out, talking tech, talking photo, talking video. Today is a technology day. We're going to be talking about SpaceX, maybe a little bit of Starlink, Space Force, NASA, FAA, FCC, EPA. A lot of these three-letter organizations and what will happen now that there is a Trump administration coming. What is the future for Elon Musk? What's the future for Jeff Bezos and all the rest of them? So I've read a really good article over on Space News. I want to read some of it to you and then give you my commentary, what I think. But more importantly, I want to hear about you, what you think about all of this. So before we get into it, I want to say that if you enjoy the content, throw it a thumbs up. That's very helpful. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're not, if you are, I appreciate that. Click this little notification button here so when I go live or when a new video comes out, you'll be notified of it immediately. Tonight, we'll be live, the JC Live Show, Free Speech Friday, as we always call it, tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hang out with us. Also, if you want any of my ebooks, they are free. Go to JCristina.com/books. And if you want to say thank you for all of my hard work, there's a little thank you button. You can click there, give $1 or $2 if you like. If not, that's perfectly fine. Consider becoming a member of the channel. That would be even better. And finally, when you're done watching this video, not now, I'll put a link right here to a playlist of over 360 videos I put together specifically on SpaceX, Starlink. Helpful how-tos, tips, tricks, what to do, what not to do, what to buy, what not to buy. And of course, the why behind all of it, because this channel has always been about the why. So let's get right into this article. Then once again, I'll give you my commentary. And finally, I want to hear from you down below. What do you think? If you don't want to put anything down there, put an emoji. I'm happy with that. At least I know that you're actually watching. That helps out a lot. Starts out by saying former President Trump's decisive electoral victory last night ensures his return to the White House. Here's a look at what it could mean for NASA and Space Force and companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin. SpaceX, Starship, and potential conflicts of interest. Elon Musk, a vocal Trump supporter, a major donor, could see a White House role in Trump's administration. This raises conflict concerns as SpaceX is the top launch provider for U.S. government contracts. If Elon Musk holds a government position, he'd likely need to step away from SpaceX, which is unlikely. Trump's favor towards SpaceX's Mars-focused Starship project could also translate in eased regulations from agencies like the FAA, EPA, Fish and Wildlife, as well as the FCC, helping Starship's launch pace keep up with NASA's Artemis timeline. NASA, human spaceflight, and the Artemis program. Trump's first term saw the birth of NASA's Artemis program, aiming to return humans to the moon. Yet budget constraints caused delays. While NASA typically receives higher funding under Republicans, competing priorities like the Ukraine, inflation, and immigration could still limit the budget. Despite this, Trump's administration may fast-track Artemis to ensure American astronauts reach the moon before China, emphasizing global leadership over scientific motives. Interesting thought. NASA's science mission and climate research. Funding the Moon and Mars projects may divert money from NASA's science missions, especially climate research, which could face cuts under Trump's administration. I think it will. Missions for climate monitoring might be sacrificed in favor of pushing the Artemis program. Mars sample return, however, is likely to stay on track as it is a competitive priority with China. Political budgeting and NASA's challenges. NASA's budgets have often been hampered by politics, especially when different parties control the White House and Congress. However, with Trump holding both the Republican-controlled House and Senate, passing budgets might become easier. Some projects previously viewed as too costly under a Democrat administration may gain approval under Trump's leadership. The commercial space market. Trump's first term saw a major growth in the commercial space sector, with venture capital flooding into potential next SpaceX companies. But today's commercial space market has tightened. Higher interest rates and cautious investors make funding scarcer. The day after the election, both Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin CEO congratulated Trump, with Bezos avoiding a strong political stance, but likely hopeful for Blue Origin under the new administration. Do we all love Jeff Bezos? Blue Origin, just stop already. And his whole nonsense of Project Kuiper. Anyways. Meanwhile, Musk's visible support for Trump has other companies wary of favoritism towards SpaceX, the primary contractor for many government space needs. This could heighten the concern over fair competition within the commercial space sector. Despite these changes, SpaceX remains the leader, and the growth in the market likely depends on the return to pre-pandemic interest rates. U.S. Space Force and defense initiatives. Trump's last term created the Space Force, which grew considerably. Trump has voiced interest in expanding it with a Space National Guard, a controversial move with political backing. With Republicans known for prioritizing defense, especially in space, expect a continuation of this trend under Trump. That is absolutely the case. I think that the space market in general will benefit a Trump in the White House. And the reason being, number one, if we just look at Elon Musk and his company SpaceX and Starlink, for example, we know, and I've talked to you guys about this in the past, all of the FCC, FAA, Fish and Wildlife, EPA, all of them, they are all political biased. It shouldn't be that way. I personally think that they should not have a political bias in any direction. I think that they should be neutral or be forced to vote neutrally, maybe not even vote in an election. I don't know. Whoever is in charge of these agencies need to have us, we, the people, in mind, and not a political party. The problem with that is a perfect example is with the FCC. The FCC has 5 commissioners, and those 5 commissioners are appointed, not elected, they should be elected, appointed by the President of the United States. And the law states that out of the 5, 3 of them could be from one political party and the other 2 from another. So what do you think happens? When there is a Democrat in office, out of the 5, there would be 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans. If there's a Republican in office, there'll be 3 Republicans and 2 Democrat commissioners for the FCC. Do you think that that is right? Down below, I want to hear from you right now. All right, just stop the video. Let me know, do you think that that is right? Do you think the FCC should be biased on politics? Do you think that they should have 3 of whatever the party is in there and then 2 of the other? So when a vote happens, they always vote down party lines the majority of the time, let's say 90% of the time. So whoever is in the White House controls these 3-letter organizations, these regulatory bodies, and that is not right. The people in these agencies should not be appointed. They should be elected by us, we the people. And they should have us, we the people, in mind when they do any type of ruling. The problem that we've seen for the last 4 years is Elon Musk came out for Trump. That's a big problem. Even though he voted for Biden, it doesn't matter. He came out for Trump, and that was a major problem. So what ended up happening? The FAA was against him. The FCC stalled. Fish and Wildlife, all kinds of problems. EPA, NOAA, whatever. All of these agencies were against him. Why? Because they are politically biased, and that is a problem. Once again, they should not be appointed. Now there's a Republican president and a Republican House and a Republican Senate. He has the whole trifecta. I still believe today that those should not be appointed. They should be elected by us. They should work for us, and when they stop working for us, they're out. They're fired. That's my personal opinion. Once again, what say you? Now, one of the other points in this article that I really didn't agree with is this whole thing on climate change and how they believe that, well, now we're going to push our money, our funding into Artemis, into all these other things in comparison to climate monitoring. I did some research on this because that's what I do. I like to dig in. I researched like a ton. I actually used ChatGPT. I used a bunch of different AIs out there just to bang the information off each other to see what they come up with, and then list all kinds of sightings so that I know that this stuff is factual information. And what I found was quite interesting. They all concluded the exact same thing, that if the United States, as of today, right, stopped all emissions immediately. That means, as they call it, fossil fuel usage completely stopped. Electrify everything and improve energy efficiency. That's number one. Also, carbon capture, or CCS. These large carbon captures of the CO2 to reduce CO2, that happens immediately. Reforestation. Blanket, reforest everything, land management. Also, reduce all methane emissions. Kill all the cows. No more cow farts, okay? No cow farts. We are going to reduce all emissions. Also, limit short-lived climate pollutants. Those are those HFCs and all the rest of the stuff into the atmosphere. And then, of course, they have to add on to the list this geoengineering, where we can somehow, this is experimental, of course, still, but using solar radiation management to now lessen or lower the temperature. And the bottom line here is every single one of the sources come up with the exact same thing. If the US did everything, literally electrify everything, no more cow farts, the entire thing, reforest everything, right? It would literally do nothing. Zero. And if the entire globe was to get on board with no cow farts and electrification, all the rest of this stuff, if they did, we would be able to reduce the temperature of the planet by 1 degree over the course of over 100 years. And that's if they maintain that. So the bottom line is, how is this going to be helpful? Do you think that the whole world will do this? And the answer to that is absolutely no. And what they said is, even if the US was to do all of this stuff, it would be negated by other countries like India and China and all the rest of them, Russia, pouring out soot. Now, does that mean that we shouldn't take the high road? Yes, we should. But the stuff is just completely over the top craziness. They're nuts. That all being said, I personally believe Gaia, the planet, is alive. It is a living, breathing organism, okay? And like our body, she heals herself. When we get a cut or scrape, broken bones, something, over time, we heal, right? The same thing happens with the earth. It heals. When you burn an entire forest down, right, it will grow back by itself. You don't have to replant it. It will slowly grow back because there's always a seed somewhere that will grow again and then reproduce and continue to grow until that forest is 100% grown back. Over time, obviously. But the earth heals itself. We are viruses and bacteria on her. And if it wants to rid us from her, she can do it. That's my personal opinion. And of course, I had to dig in a little bit deeper. I wanted to find out, what about this climate? What is going on with climate? How is the temperatures, let's say, over the course of millions of years, not over 100 years, millions of years? And what all of the scientists agree upon is that the temperatures change cyclically. They're like a cycle, like an ebb and flow, like a human biorhythm of sorts, right? But for planet-wide. So sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's hot. Sometimes it's cold, sometimes hot. When I say sometimes, I'm talking about in the course of millennia. Not 100 years, millennia. It's constantly hot and cold, hot and cold. It's changing. That's what it does. And the thought that we're like gods and we can somehow change the planet is just absurd to me. Absolutely absurd. That doesn't mean don't be good stewards of the planet. Regrow trees. Don't burn down forests. Don't do crazy ass shit. But that doesn't mean also worry about cow farts. I guarantee you, if you killed every cow on the planet, it's not going to reduce the temperature of our planet by 1/10 of a degree. And we'll have no cows. But this is the stupidity that's involved here. So, coming full circle after a rant, do I think that the new administration will help Elon Musk and SpaceX and even Blue Origin with Jeff Bezos? And the answer to that is yes, I do. Because I think a lot more emphasis we put into the space system, let's call it. That means commercial and governmental. That means Space Force as well as SpaceX, Blue Origin, and ULA, and all the rest of them. So I think it's a good thing. Now, as far as us, Starlink users, I think it's also going to be beneficial because these three-letter agencies will be controlled by Republicans instead of Democrats. They will be nicer to Elon Musk and he'll be able to launch more rockets. Do I think that that is right? No. Just like I said before, it shouldn't be that way. It should not. Everyone associated with these different bodies, these three-letter organizations, they should be elected. And when they do a job, they should be fired. That's it. That's my personal opinion. But either which way, now we have a Republican that's going to be in office. He has full control. Full. That means the Senate, the House, the presidency, everything. The full trifecta. He ended up winning by like 5 or 6 million votes. A ton. All right? Matter of fact, this is the map. This is what it looks like. Red to blue. It is an unbelievable map. I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. So, once again, what say you? What do you think about all this? Do you think that there's going to be a major change happening here when it comes to SpaceX? Do you think they're going to be launching a lot more? Their cadence is going to increase. I personally think yes. What do you think? What do you think? And do you think it's a good thing or do you think it's a bad thing? I want to know. I want to know. Remember, I'm a photographer, right? I do astrophotography, so I don't like seeing these satellites streaking up my pictures. I don't like that. But I know there's always a good and a bad to everything. And I would rather see horrible photographs from Earth, astrophotographs, but people in the middle of nowhere being able to access SpaceX Starlink and have internet where it was never ever even thought of in the past. Anywhere on the planet, you could be on the poles of the planet and still be able to get SpaceX Starlink. That is a lifesaver, but it's also an information just exponentiator. It gives information to people that never had access to it before. That's why a lot of these countries are saying no to SpaceX Starlink because they want to control the narrative, but they can't. Once their people have SpaceX Starlink, the information is flowing. That is it. You can no longer control it. So it's a problem for some of these countries. Anyways, what say you down below? I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, throw it a thumbs up. That's awesome. If you didn't, throw it a thumbs down. That's okay too. I completely understand. But finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools I've invented for you and me over the many years, and my merch, and my tees, and my shirts, and my books, and everything else. Go to JCristina.com and see if there's something that fancies you. And if it is, pick it up. Help support me and my family. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay connected, and we'll see you in the next one. Love you all.